Good afternoon, members, and welcome to this annual meeting of the Fire Authority. If we can start with agenda item 1, and that is the election of the chair. So could I have any nominations, please? Yes, Councillor Murphy.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Chris Morris, please.
And is that seconded, please? Yes, Councillor Weir.
I'd like to second that.
And are there any further nominations? No further nominations. So if we could just show hands, please, of all those for. Is there any against? No. And any abstentions? No. So Councillor Morris is confirmed as the chair for this municipal year. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your patience, everybody. I would like to begin by welcoming those members of the public and press who are watching the live stream of this meeting via the Fire Services YouTube page. The Fire Authority allows filming and photography at its public meetings, so please feel free to use social media during the meeting. Can I ask, though, that everyone present please turns their mobile phones to silent or vibrate whilst the meeting is taking place. There is no fire alarm test scheduled for today, so if the alarm sounds, I will adjourn the meeting and we will all make our way out by the nearest available fire exits. The muster point is in the car park to the rear of the building. We now move on to agenda item number 2, which is the appointment of the vice chair. I would in fact like to begin by nominating Councillor Andrew Bond for that role. Do we have a seconder? Thank you very much. Happy to take that seconding from Councillor Navarro. Do I have any other nominations for this role? Thank you very much. On that basis, do we need to take a formal vote for these, or do require a formal vote? Okay. On that basis, please, could I have a show of hands in favour? And any against? And any abstentions? On that basis, thank you very much. Councillor Bond is confirmed as Vice Chair for the municipal year 2026 to 27. Welcome back. We'll move on now to item number 3, apologies for absence and declarations of interest. Would Tamar please report any apologies for absence?
Apologies received from Councillors Bywater, Fitzgerald, Rees and Fisher.
Thank you very much indeed.
Just to let the committee know, I have to leave at 3 o'clock because I have a hospital appointment. Just so if everyone's like, where's he going? That's why. Thank you.
Thank you for letting us know. Does any member wish to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest or non-statutory disclosable interest? Thank you very much. With no further ado, then, we will move on to agenda item number 4, where we're being asked to approve the minutes of the meeting held on February 12th, 2026 as an accurate record. If any member wants to raise a question on the accuracy of the minutes only, can they do so now? I see no objections, so we will take that as carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on now to the action log. Do members have any questions about the action log? Okay, well, we're simply being asked to note that, which we duly do. And we move now on to agenda item number 5, which is my announcements. As this is our annual meeting and we have a fairly full agenda, these announcements are purposefully quite short. I'd like to start by formally welcoming to their inaugural Fire Authority meeting Councillors Adam Bostanki and Ishfaq Hussain, and also to thank Councillors Boyce and Dieter for their contributions to the work of the authority during their respective tenures. I would also like to thank those members who were able for their attendance at this morning's informative members seminar, where we received the latest update on the Vision 2030 project, and were able to discuss the details of our HMI inspection report. The Chief Fire Officer and I very much appreciate the level of member engagement in those forums. You will all be well aware, I think, of the efforts our service colleagues expend on a myriad of community safety activities. And as we are now officially in the summer period and the school holidays are on the horizon, I'd like to draw particular attention to a new short film promoting water safety that was launched last week during the Royal Life Saving Society's Drowning Prevention Week. It is a tragic fact that at least 15 people, most of them teenagers, have died so far this year throughout the UK. Cold water shock, when fun turns fatal, tells the tragic story of 16-year-old Jack Lloyd, who died last year at Crown Lakes near Peterborough. It is a heartbreaking account of the incident and the impact it has had and still has on his family and friends. The film, produced in partnership with Peterborough City Council, highlights the dangers of cold water shock and jumping into open water, with crucial advice from both us and from constabulary colleagues. The video is available on our website and through YouTube, and I would ask that we all share it and help spread the message everywhere about the importance of staying safe around water. As already mentioned, our HMI inspection report was published the week before last on June 12th. Having independent assessors come in and analyse what we do, triangulate evidence and provide feedback on what they find is always a useful process in terms of our continual improvement. The full report contains a lot of positive comments about the service and what they do across all areas. However, the way that the gradings are done means that this is not always reflected in them. I therefore encourage everyone to take the time to read the full report and continue to join the discussion on how the service can best take its findings forward. A link to the report will be provided in the minutes of this meeting. We will now move to the next agenda item, which is agenda item 6, appointments to committees and outside bodies. Members will note that the appointments to committees and outside bodies document was circulated separately to members following the full agenda pack and was uploaded onto the meeting webpage. Can I please ask that Tamar Oviatt-Ham, Democratic Services Officer, introduces this report, please?
Hello, members. This is just a very brief report, just outlines a couple of changes to the membership of committees, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for Tamar? Any other comments or points people would like to raise in debate? Okay, well, hopefully all fairly straightforward. We're being asked to agree the schedule of appointments in Appendix 1. I don't see any objections to that, so I think we can take that as carried. We will move on now to agenda item number 7, which is the appointment of committee chairs and vice chairs across both the Policy and Resources Committee and Overview and Scrutiny Committee. First of all, we move to the appointment of chair of the Policy and Resources Committee. Do I have any nominations for chair? Yes, Councillor Bond.
Thank you, Chair. I propose Councillor Jamil, please.
Do we have a seconder for that? Yes, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Poulton seconding there. Do we have any further nominations? Well, thank you very much indeed. We will now therefore move to the vote. First of all, could you please raise your hand in favour of that proposal? And do we have any against? Or any abstentions? Thank you very much indeed. Well, on that basis, Councillor Jamil is confirmed as chair of the Policy and Resources Committee for the municipal year 2026 to 27. Congratulations, Councillor Jamil. We will now move to the appointment of vice chair of the Policy and Resources Committee. Do we have any nominations for vice chair? Yes, Councillor Navarro.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to nominate Councillor Chris Poulton.
And do we have a seconder for that? Councillor
Very happy
Pistacchi?
to second that.
Thank you very much indeed. Do we have any other nominations for this role? On that basis, we will move again to the vote. First of all, could I have the votes for? Any votes against? And any abstentions? Thank you very much indeed. On that basis, Councillor Poulton is confirmed as Vice Chair of the Policy and Resources Committee for the municipal year 2026 to 2027. We now move on to the appointment of Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. And I would like to nominate Councillor Whelan for that role. Do I have a seconder? Yes, Councillor Murphy.
Yes, I'd like to second that, please.
Thank you very much indeed. Do we have any further nominations for this role? On that basis, we will once again move to the vote. And could I please have hands raised in favour? And against? And any abstentions? Thank you very much. On that basis, then, I am delighted to confirm that Councillor Whelan is confirmed as Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for the municipal year 2026 to 2027. We now move to the appointment of Vice Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Do I have any nominations for Vice Chair?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Malinowski.
Thank you very much, Councillor Whelan. And do we have any seconders? Yes, Councillor Bond.
More than happy to second.
Thank you very much indeed. Do we have any other nominations for this role? On that basis, we'll move on to our final vote. Can you please raise your hands in favour? Can you raise your hands if you are against? And any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much indeed. On that basis, Councillor Malinowski is confirmed as Vice Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for the municipal year 2026 to 2027. Thank you all for your time and consideration. Very much appreciated. We will now move on to agenda item number 8, which is the annual review of constitutional documents. Can I ask Shaheen Ismail, our monitoring officer, to introduce this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Members, this is an annual review that comes at this time of year in front of you. There are not many changes, if any, to the majority of the documents. Those who were on the authority last year will remember we did do fairly extensive review of the scheme of delegations and other documents. There is just one area that does need a decision from you, and that's in respect of the members' allowance scheme. That current scheme expires in 2027, and we have to plan for what happens after that. And I think, members, we have two options. The first is to do a formal review by setting up an independent review panel, which would report back, or the other option is to perhaps extend the current scheme by perhaps 1 year. There are some benefits to that second option. We know there's a period of governance change proposed, and members might think until that is clarified, you may or may not want to review the scheme of delegations. We might get some clarity in the next 12 months. And secondly, we haven't made any fundamental changes to members' roles and responsibilities or committee structures. It's unlikely that an IRP would make any significant changes, but it's a matter for you, Chair, and members as to whether you want to do the whole hog formal review and get the IRP set up, in which case we will need a decision on that today so we can do that, or perhaps extend for a year. Chair, I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Shaheen. Do we have any questions for Shaheen? Yes, Councillor Jamil.
It's not a question, it's more of a suggestion. I think with LGR looming, I think it might be just sensible just to let things go for another year, and then when we are in LGR, then make that decision. I just think us having this conversation almost through it's because of the time we're talking about when it kicks in. We you know, things may look completely different. So I just think I'm quite happy to let things go as they are.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jamil. Any other questions or comments more generally? So my correct understanding, we need to make a decision on that 1 year extension today, do we? And is the proposal then that an appraisal of options will be brought to a subsequent meeting to what happens after that 1 year extension? Okay, excellent. Can I work on the basis that we have general support for that approach? I see no objection, so on that basis, we are happy to approve that extension on the basis that we are brought an appraisal of future options at our next meeting. Thank you very much indeed. We will move then on to agenda item number 9, which is the Pay Policy Statement 26/27. Can I ask Matthew Warren, our Chief FAR Officer and Chief Executive, to introduce this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. This has to come to you annually. It's effectively a statutory document that we've been required to produce since 2011 on the back of the Localism Act. So we have reviewed it a number of times. It effectively sets out terms and conditions at a high level for senior officers, along with some other aspects that we choose or do not choose, things like re-engagement that some of you will recall. We have effectively, certainly at a senior level, stopped re-engaging senior officers. It is a look back, so it says 26/27, but it actually looks back because it's on the basis of what we know, rather than what we can speculate on in terms of pay awards. A couple of things just to highlight in the appendix for members' information is around in para 1. The pay ratio that remains consistent. So it's in paragraph 1.7. That remains consistent with last year at 1:7. That's the lowest and highest earner ratio. And the other point just to highlight now is around in 3.7.3 is around the strategic rota, operational command rota. So this is a look back, and it talks about Bedfordshire. We have moved away from Bedfordshire, and now we're operating back as a Cambridgeshire only based strategic operational rota. And now that was at the request at the time of Bedfordshire for us to move away from that arrangement. That said, actually, we've got good resilience in county at the moment, and certainly from a working perspective, if you like, I have much more reassurance because I obviously know all my people extremely well and trust them to obviously provide obviously a very, very high quality service to the people of Cambridgeshire. So I'm comfortable with that changing. Just a couple of other points before I move to the recommendation. Just to give you an update, I suppose, on pay negotiations for the current financial year. So for our professional support Green Book people, we had an offer of 3.3%. That was rejected by Unison. So that is ongoing. So watch this space. We have no further update as things stand at the moment as to the progress. That was a full and final offer, but clearly then it still needs to be some continued, hopefully, debate around where that ends up. And in terms of our operational colleagues, there was a 3.8% offer, again full and final, but that is now going to vote because it appears that at this stage it doesn't appear that it's going to be accepted. So again, we'll watch this space in terms of where that ends up, and we should know both of those hopefully in the next few weeks. But so there's still somewhat uncertainty around pay going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Much appreciated. Members, do you have any questions for Matthew? Yes, Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Chair. It was just a question of understanding. The pay multiple, is that calculated on headline pay or full compensation package?
Headline pay. So it doesn't account for pensions, contributions and such like. It's on headline pay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Matthew? Yes, Councillor Bond.
Thank you. So you mentioned the 3.3% increase that was rejected. Do you have any inkling of how far apart we are in terms of what they want and what we want? Does that make sense?
No, I do not. I don't have in terms of the Joint Council and their negotiations. I have no other knowledge other than the 3.3% that was offered. Okay.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Councillor Bond. Any further questions or indeed wider comments at this point? Okay, thank you very much. Well, the draft pay policy statement was presented to the Policy and Resources Committee on the 16th of April for review and comment. Members of that committee unanimously resolved to recommend to the authority its approval for external publication, which is covered in minute 27. The authority is therefore asked to approve the pay policy statement 2026/27 as attached to Appendix 1 for external publication. I don't see any real dissent for that. So unless anybody has any objections they'd like to raise at this point, I would propose that that is agreed. Excellent. Thank you very much. On that basis, that is approved. Moving on to agenda item number 10, which is the Employment Rights Act 2025 update. Can I ask Hayley Douglas, Assistant Director of Communications and Engagement, to introduce this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to present to yourself just a high-level overview of the changes under the Employment Rights Act 2025 and its implication for Cambridge Fire and Rescue Service, but also the actions that we're taking to ensure that we're compliant. The authority is asked to note the legislative changes introduced by the Employment Rights Act and to review and provide comment on the proactive and structured implementation that we're taking into how we sort of make the changes ourselves. The Employment Rights Act received royal assent on the 18th of December last year, and it represents the most significant overhaul of UK employment law in a generation. It has 28 major reforms affecting nearly every area of human resources and people management. Some of the key changes include day one rights for paternity and paternity leave, the removal of the statutory 6-pay waiting period. It strengthens sexual harassment duties and extended tribunal time limits. And it also includes for employers with over 250 employees from next April, the publication of a Gender Equality Action Plan, which I will talk about in a bit more detail shortly. As a service, we're well positioned to respond to these. Our people team has been adopting a proactive and structured approach, presented a paper to the senior leadership team about how we'll go about implementing change. Some of it is about reviewing our policies and also putting some training in place for managers. Just wanted to highlight a couple of the key areas within the plan that's in the appendix. Implementation of these is phased throughout 2026 and 2027, but we're taking action now to make sure that we're obviously doing stuff that came in this year and that we're prepared for next year. The most financially significant change is the removal of the unfair dismissal compensation cap that takes into effect from January next year. But again, we're preparing for that as soon as possible. And as I said, there's a number of policy reviews we need to undertake and manager training, which is two of the key priorities in the plan that we've put together. From January, unfair dismissal qualifying period reduces to 6 months from 2 years, and there's a compensation cap on unfair dismissal is removed. Also next year from April, as I said, we need to publish a gender equality action plan that must include one action about how we're going to reduce our gender pay gap and one action regarding menopause, a menopause action plan. Members received a paper on our gender pay gap at a previous meeting, and in June last year, we received nationally recognised independent menopause-friendly accreditation. So we feel we're in a good place with both of those. We understand our gender pay gap, and we're taking steps now to understand what that action plan will look like for both of those. So we're well positioned to respond, it lays out exactly from a risk level, the paper, how we see things, and we will start taking all that forward. If anybody has any very detailed questions, I have both Emma and Shaheen here today to answer some of those. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed, Hayley. Much appreciated. Members, do you have any questions for Hayley, or indeed for those you might pass those on to? Yes, Councillor Black.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, I mean, I'd like to welcome the legislation, and it's really good to see positive change in the country rather than sort of seeing employment rights changes being things to make things worse for workers. Now, the Fire Authority is a very reputable employer, as is the County Council, and so I think it's not surprising that we'd find that most of these things are things that we would do anyway. So, for instance, people are getting statutory sick pay rights from day one. Now, I'd assume that's what we were paying anyway. It said not mentioned in our documents, but I mean, the reason it's not mentioned is, I guess, we pay statutory sick pay, or we pay the negotiated sick pay immediately. Personally, I'm hoping that my own employer will be implementing sick pay from day one in my day job. And again, I was just looking, I'm on a 0 hours contract, but I'd assume we don't have anybody on 0 hours contracts in the Fire Authority. One thing I'd mention is, certainly from the County Council's point of view, we have very, very large numbers of people who contract for us and do work for the council, you know, particularly in social care and things, and there is a big job there to make sure that they get the rights that they are entitled to under the Employment Rights Act. And I'm hoping that the Fire Authority, I wouldn't have thought there was anywhere near as much things that were subcontracted out, but we need to perhaps think about that. And again, you said that the unfair dismissal compensation cap has a financial effect, but I'm hoping that we haven't actually been unfairly dismissing people, and that we haven't actually benefited from being capped at a certain amount of compensation rather than a higher amount, which might have been appropriate had that rather regressive capping law not been brought in the first place. And yeah, I welcome that we're moving ahead on the equality action plans and things. You know, we need to make sure we're complying with the legislation and indeed getting ahead of that. And again, compared to the county council, there's a number of proposals here which hopefully will make it easier to recruit to trade unions and to embed them in the workings of employers, and I certainly welcome that. I think probably the Fire Authority, our employees there's a much greater density of trade union membership already, and things are probably more embedded than at the county council. So hopefully, you know, it'd be nice if there's improvements, but hopefully we're ahead of the game already. But yes, I mean, I'm basically saying let's welcome the positive change that is coming forward. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Black. I think for the most part, comments there rather than questions, but I don't know if there's anything you'd like to respond to in that, Hayley.
No, only that, yes, naturally, although it's a greater financial risk, we'd certainly hope we don't get there either. And through sort of making sure that our policies are all changed with the up-to-date legislation and the training that we're doing with managers, that will just strengthen the risk, or lessen the risk of us getting in that position. So.
Thank you very much, Hayley. And Shaheen, is there something you'd like to add?
Yes, just on some of those points. Statutory sick pay is the minimum entitlement, and we pay contractual sick pay, which is full pay for a certain number of weeks, depending on whether you're a firefighter or a support member of staff. So we absolutely pay more than the statutory minimum. In terms of 0 hours contracts, you'll be pleased to hear that we don't have anybody on 0 hours, but that is part of the reform as well. And we are reviewing some of those on-call arrangements to see if they fall, but at the moment we don't think they do, so we're fine on that. And in terms of unfair dismissal, yes, certainly in the last 5 years, touch wood, we've had 3 claims put in, 2 were withdrawn, 1 went all the way to Employment Tribunal, and we were successful. So I think that's a good statistic to show that if we do dismiss anybody, they are fair dismissals and we don't get challenged in the Employment Tribunal. And when we have, we've succeeded. So I hope that reassures you too.
Thank you, Shaheen. That's really helpful. Any other questions for Hayley and the team? Yes, Councillor Navarro.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, we have been told this is a major financial risk. Have we made any quantifiable measures, amounts of what the potential risk could be if we face a tribunal claim under the new regime? Have we made any modeling? Are we doing any reserving anything about the potential exposure?
Hayley, sorry, yes, please do go ahead.
So, I'm not aware that we've not done any modelling that I'm aware of yet. It's a bit of an unknown, quantifiable, but we can certainly take something back to our payroll team to investigate further to see if we can do anything. Sorry.
Thank you, Matthew. Would you like to add to that?
Councillor Navarro, I think the reassurance I would give is actually we don't ever want to get ourselves into that place where we're having to model for unfair dismissal claims. Actually, what we seek to do is obviously work with individuals, and if there were performance issues, we work with them proactively to resolve those before we get into a place where actually we're having to model financially of any potential payout, because actually we'd like to hopefully steer clear of anything like that in the future. I think our record, like Shaheen has demonstrated, suggests that we do that anyway. So that's certainly the focus I would be putting on for the organisation.
Thank you, Matthew, and thank you, Councillor Navarro. I'd certainly echo the fact that if you are not dismissing people unfairly, then both the cap and the qualifying period are irrelevant, and that should probably be the focus. Any further questions or comments or items for debate? Well, thank you very much again, Hayley, for a really clear paper, which I think was very easy to digest for everyone here, and which I may make use of in other areas of my life as well. Matthew, yes.
I think it's probably just worth highlighting that Emma, who joined us recently, has has actually pulled this paper together and done the bulk of the work in making sure that we're along with Shaheen, are prepared. So thank you. It's a great addition to the people team. So thank you very much for all of your hard work.
Well, welcome, Emma, and thank you all of you for your contributions. Much appreciated. We are simply being asked to note the legislative changes introduced by the ERA 2025, as well as to review and provide comment on the proactive and structured implementation approach being taken by CFRS, as detailed in Appendix 1, which we have duly had the opportunity to do, and indeed we have noted those changes. On that basis, I think we can then move on to agenda item number 11, which is the final revenue and capital budget position and draft statement of accounts for 2025-26. Members will note that Appendix 4 to this report was circulated separately on Friday last week. Can I ask Ursula Bird, Assistant Director for Finance and our Section 151 Officer, to introduce this report, please?
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members. I'm assuming that all the members have reviewed the papers, and therefore you'll be pleased to hear I'll only be providing a brief overview of the key points in the papers. There are a few asks. The members are asked to note the revenue and capital outturn position, to approve the requested carry forwards, to note the annual Treasury Management Update Report, and to approve the draft unaudited financial statements of accounts for 25-26 so that they can be published on our website, which we have to do for the end of June. So the key points I'd just like to bring to highlight, with reference to points 4.2 and 4.3, during the year of 2025-26, in addition to the budget, we used last year's revenue and order carry forwards totaling 750,000, as well as some earmarked revenue reserves of 713,000 and 61,000. So these were added to our original budget for 25-26. The final outturn from all this resulted in an overall underspend of 269,000, which we have transferred to the General Reserve, pending your approval. Section 5 and Appendix 1 shows where the underspends and overspends are throughout the service. Generally, you see underspends in the employee costs and within the supplies and services. The management and admin support carried vacancies for part of the year, and some of those were through challenges in fulfilling those vacancies, and others through natural timing delays in recruitment, as well as decisions not to always recruit immediately and to review whether we actually need to backfill with the same role. Regarding other employee costs, some of this underspend was down to a decision to drastically reduce some of the third-party professional support trainer. We used a consultant, and we have decided to bring some of that in with some in-house training and some online training, and that's made a significant saving. Other areas of consultancy are dependent on demand and quite hard to predict. So you have some good years and some not so good years. So this was a good one. Supplies and services were underspent for quite a significant amount. This is mainly due to the large reductions in the airwave and communication costs, which is a national thing, and also underspend in consultancy. We do expect in future years the airwave costs will change and will be significantly higher, but for now we're benefiting from the reduced costs. In addition to these underspends, we actually received additional revenue incomes totaling nearly £1 million. 480,000 of it relates to some national non-domestic rates pooling dividends, which we don't budget for because they are an unknown quantity, they're not guaranteed, and they're not known at the time of budget setting. In addition to that, we were fortunate to have received an additional £324,000 in interest interest receipts. This was due to our short-term investments that we were making and interest rates remaining fairly high. Further to this, we were also lucky to have received some SIL funding to help fund our St Neots refurbishment, and that came from Peterborough Council. So we were really fortunate and grateful for that. To also support our capital funding, we allocated £500,000 out of our revenue pot to help support the capital programme. Under section 6.2, you will see the carry forward request. This is higher than usual, but we'd like to put some of this underspend to specific use to help, as well as identifying some gaps since the budget was set in January. The bulk of the carried forward is wanted to fund additional employees, some on a temporary basis, to help us move forward with some improvements and to support those departments where we see the extra support is needed, as well as to start building in some resilience in some of those departments where we can see there's a risk in the future. Section 7, it relates to our reserves. And although our usable reserves have reduced, this is largely related to the property reserve, which was earmarked for the St Neots fire station, and that's been completed. So we've used that. We have transferred the remaining underspend of 269,000 to the general reserve for future use should we need it. The general reserve now is sitting at approximately 7% of the net budget, and usable reserves in total are around 11% of the net budget. Section 8 highlights our capital programme, which was underspent across all the categories. The main element being the St Ives relocation project, which I think you're all aware, we decided to stop and change course due to the fact that the site we had sourced was not actually going to be right for us in the long term. There is a request to carry much of this underspend forward to cover some projects started but not completed during the 25-26, and to cover increased costs as we now have updated refurbishment costs, and to cover some additional items which are listed. So I'll go on to the Treasury update, which I'm sure you all love to hear, but I'm not going to go in too much detail. You'll be pleased to know. Much of the Treasury update is provided to us from the MUFG, which are our Treasury consultants, which provide us with lots of the information. The report also includes some bespoke stuff which is directly relating to us. The unfinanced capital spend of 1.1 million has been covered by us using our internal funds, so it's internal borrowing, if you like. And the cost of that will be spread across the life of those assets against our revenue account. We have not borrowed externally as we continue to have cash available, and borrowing rates remain high, between 5 and 6.3%, depending on the term of borrowing. We're not allowed to overborrow in the long term, and we are well below this at 4.2 million under our borrowing limit. Short-term investments have remained fairly high during the year, earning us some interest as additional income, which I alluded to earlier. And we closed the year holding just over 9 million in short-term deposits. Finally, I'd just like to make a couple of points about the draft unaudited financial statements of accounts. And these are very much draft and unaudited, although they have been put together by 3 qualified accountants, but the audit has not yet commenced by Ernst Young. So they will be scrutinised over the forthcoming few months by Ernst Young, our financial auditors. And as such, there may be some changes to the final sets of accounts, which are due to be with the Fire Authority in December. And they will have to be, the final accounts have to be published by the end of January 27. The outturn report reflects the impact on the public funds, and I do not expect this figure to change. If there are any changes, not that I expect there to be any, but if there are, then they will most likely be in the accompanying notes to the accounts. The financial statements have been put together, as I said earlier, by 3 qualified accountants, but also by using specialist consultants for the valuation of our assets and our pension liabilities. And they have also been prepared in accordance with the latest SIPFA guidelines. I thank you, members and chair, and I'm happy to take any questions if you have any.
Thank you very much indeed, Ursula. Much appreciated. Members, do you have any questions for Ursula? Yes, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Ursula, for a very good report. It's just 2 quick questions, really. Under 8.4, we talk about upgraded CCTV in our vehicles. Is that all vehicles we've now done, or is it just some? And then the other point is, how many EV pod stations have we put around our, you knew I was going to ask that, Stuart. So around our fire stations to date, and which going forward? It just
so I don't know if those questions directed towards you. Might be that Stuart's the best person to answer those. So Stuart, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Gardner. In answer to the CCTV question, that came off the back of the recommendations from the vehicle accident. So that's all Red Fleet. I've got CCTV 360. And it's also about how we can access that out of hours and remotely rather than having to go to sites. So they've all got the same spec to allow us to do that. So that's been done, and it forms part of the ongoing project for the recommendations from that investigation. In terms of your second point, I'd have to clarify numbers. I'll get back to you on numbers. But I believe all apart from, I think it's 5 sites have pod points across our county, some of which are being utilised by the public as part of a trial.
Thank you very much, Stuart. Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Any further questions for Ursula? Yes, Councillor Jamil.
Firstly, can I welcome 8.6, the refurbishment of Dogsthorpe Fire Station, which just down the road from us, and I think it's the ward that Ishak here represents anyway. Do we have like a figure on our decoupling from Suffolk as to what it's cost us, or where we are, or if it's still costing us? Do we have anything tangible as to where we are with that?
Thank you, Councillor Jamil. Matthew, do you want to come in on that initially?
So in terms of the cost is obviously the lost income that we got. That was the large impact for us. In terms of ongoing costs now, I don't have a figure in my head in terms of how much extra it's costing us. So I can get that figure for you. I suppose the key point is we've got some outstanding data that we still need to effectively extract and pass on to Suffolk, and that's ongoing. But as part of that process, they're going to have to pay for it still. So the challenge obviously has always been around the additional costs, because 2 to 1 has meant that we've had to take on additional, whether it's licensing or system costs, which we wouldn't have had to do previously. But I think we're past it now. The £1 million extra sits with us. We funded it. We continue to look for other partners now. We have just been through the process of upgrading our current mobilising system. So we upgraded it again on Monday night, and it's I won't say it. It's working well. I saw the control guys earlier, and they said it's stable, it's working well, and performing as we'd expect it to. So from our perspective, the system itself is delivering as we would have hoped. Okay.
Thank you, Matthew, and thank you, Councillor Jamil. Any other questions for Ursula or indeed the wider team? Well, thank you very much once again. Here we're being asked to note the revenue and capital budget outturn position for 2025-2026, approve the requested budget holder carry forwards, note the contents of the annual Treasury Management Report, and approve the unaudited draft statements of account for 2025-2026. I propose to take all of those items together. Do we have any objections to approving those? I think we have broad consensus there. So on that basis, we will consider those items all approved and noted. Thank you very much indeed. We'll now move on to agenda item number 12, which is the review of the Community Risk Management Plan for 2024 to 29. Can I please ask Tamsin Murfin, our Assistant Director for Service Transformation, to introduce this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. I'll just briefly take you through the report. There's two sections to it. The first is the annual review of the activities that we set out within our CRMP action plan. The second part of it are performance measures, so an annual kind of look back of the year ending 31st of April. And I've also got an ask in terms of removal of one of the performance measures, so I'll come on to that when we get to the performance measures sheet, please. So just to run through briefly, our CRMP is broken down into 4 areas. So you've got people excellence, community safety excellence, operational excellence, and value for money. And all the work that we do within the organisation is broken into those 4 sections. So just to kind of sweep you through some of the highlights, and we'll start with the people excellence. A lot of work's been ongoing in terms of culture, in terms of the engagement and targeted initiatives. So we've had the menopause network has been strengthened. We've done a lot of inclusion work. We've run our first men's health event, and we had some focus groups around maternity and paternity looking to improve what we do there. That work will continue, and our employment engagement survey will commence in this year. So we'll be getting some feedback around the culture from that. We've got a number of projects that are ongoing. So looking at our PDR process and our development programs that we run for our people, and also looking at our recruitment applicant tracking system. So what you'll notice with some of the activities of moving forward, I understand you had an update on the HMIC report this morning, that a lot of the activities that we need to implement are already kind of covered within some of the projects that we're talking about here that are ongoing within our CRMP. So not introducing too much new activity for us. We'll be looking at, we have DBS processes in place. So again, it's just embedding those and starting to do this year, the next round of DBSs because they need to be refreshed, and looking at our mental health and wellbeing support. So we've had our trauma welfare support system in place for a period of time now. We've been doing some evaluation on that so that we can make sure that that's still working effectively for us and any improvements that we need to be making there. Into community safety excellence, 2 strands there really. You've got your community safety stuff, so the home fire safety visits. We've been doing a lot of work there in terms of how we target our activity and make sure we're targeting to those effectively. We have had some challenges with data sharing, so some national data sets have not been available to us, and we'll be continuing to progress to work towards getting those into the service and updating some of the data to help us with that moving forward. Firebreak is a really successful program that we run, engaging with vulnerable young people, and into this year, we'll be looking at how we sustain that moving forward and the funding models and where we might be able to seek funding to continue to support that. We continue working with an FCC. We're introducing hopefully version 2 of the FARDAP system, which is a national system to help us do the recording on our incidents, which we're looking to improve some of the data collection that they do, specifically targeting around lithium-ion battery fires, so we can get more data around that to assist us moving forward. We continue working with partnerships at Vision Zero, sorry, not Zero Vision, that was the wrong way around, Vision Zero partnership, and also road safety initiatives and water safety initiatives there. This year, we've introduced the out-of-hours support for our fire protection, and we'll continue. A theme against community safety and protection will be evaluation moving forward, so ensuring that those activities are targeted in the right place and delivering the outcomes that we expect them to be doing. So again, more work around that. And the last area in community fire safety is the growth work. So understanding how our community is growing, what that means for us, and feeding into the Vision 30 project. Operational excellence, a large focus on Vision 30, and I think you've probably heard quite a lot about that this morning, so I'll leave that one there. And we'll be working around our risk data, so looking at projects about how we've been working on projects about how we deploy data into the field and mobile working, and also ensuring that quality data that flows in and out of the organisation to support our operational colleagues. So work will continue on that. We've also been looking at our fleet, and we've done a lot of work in terms of moving to HVO, and looking at how we're using our vehicles. And we've got further work to do around looking at some of our specialist vehicles this year. We've been working and continue to work on implementing national operational guidance, and we've been doing a lot of work around competency and how we assure ourselves that we've got those skills and that we're able to kind of visualize that through our Learning Hub system, and also looking at new tools that are available to assist us. And one of the key strands of work that will be moving forward as well is assurance, so operational assurance and how we assure ourselves that these activities are in place. Value for money. You've heard about, Matthew's just mentioned to you about the control upgrade. That's been a large focus for last year, culminated in a successful upgrade this week. There's further work moving forward in terms of that continual removal of data and looking at the structures and stuff within the control area. So more work to do there for us moving to the next year. Collaborations is an area that hasn't progressed as much, and I think that's been impacted largely by the devolution activities that are ongoing and the uncertainty there. So maybe not as much progress as we've seen previously, but we'll continue to work on that when opportunities arise. A lot of work in the digital arena, so automating of our processes, use of apps, looking towards emergency service network. We expect that project to come to fruition later this year. So we'll start to be working on that, and we'll be launching the PRIME program. So looking at our policy retention information management excellence. It's a very snappy title for that one. Sustainability continues to be a theme. There's a lot of work that has been done within the property team and also within the fleet team, moving that forward, and we'll continue that. Our focus this year is on data, collecting data to evidence what we've done and the story, and help us to understand where we can move to next. The commercial, the new regulations have been in place for over a year now, so it's continuing to embed those. And finance, you've had quite a bit of detail around the financial stuff that we've been doing, but also we've been doing financial scenario planning, just to make sure that should we not have sufficient funding, that we do have business continuity arrangements in place to manage that. The performance report, you'll see, and this is the combination of the year, that our urban response is within the 9 minutes, and so is our rural, although that has increased slightly over the last 3 years, and that's the challenge there in those areas. The 18 minutes, we're 0.1% out of our 95%, so I think we're very much nearly there. And you will see that's kind of a fluctuating level, so it's consistent with what we've seen over the previous 5 years. I just want to draw your attention to secondary fires. So in section 2, so secondary fires, we have seen an increase this year at 31.4%. Largely that's driven by the drier weather, driving those outdoor fires for us. So that's a fluctuation that we will see in the pattern on the 5-year graph. The first year, 21-22, is always COVID year. So until that one drops off, you will always see that as being slightly lower, but you will see the fluctuation, and that probably does correlate with some of the weather conditions that we see. Again, you've got a jump on fire injuries, which is a 41.1% increase this year on last year of 79. That is largely impacted by one incident where we had 11 people that received precautionary medical checks in one incident. So that's kind of a large driver behind that one. And I think those were one of the other things I wanted just to draw your attention to was the home fire safety visits. You'll see year on year that we've increased over the 5 years. We're up by 70% over the 5 years, which is a significant improvement. And targeting is the challenge now, ensuring that we get into those homes. So the uptake that we're getting there, we have seen a slight decrease there, but that's something that we're working on. But I think those are the key highlights for me, because I think Ursula's taking you through the finance. So if you're happy, I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much indeed, Tamsin. Much appreciated. Members, do we have any questions for Tamsin? Yes, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much for an excellent report, Tamsin. My only comment really is with regard to some of the graphs, which show like 65% in one quarter and slightly less in this current quarter. But if you look at the graph, it almost looks as if it's considerably less. And that was if you look just at the graph, you would think, whereas on some of the other ones, like fire deaths 4 and 6, it's very much closer. I'm just trying to get to whereas you look at, I'll just get there, people killed or seriously injured in road traffic collisions. You've got 89 in the previous quarter and 85 in this current quarter. But if you look at the, it looks as if there's a tremendous drop, but there actually isn't. So that's my only real. It's a good report, but I just think we could perhaps just balance the graphs out slightly, because if you look at it quickly, you would think there'd been a considerable drop, but there hasn't actually been. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. I think that's a fair point. The scale looks like it is slightly out on that. If you want to add anything to that, Tamsin, feel free to.
No, I think it's valuable feedback. I'm really happy to do something about that for you. Sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Jamil.
Thank you, Chair. Tamsin, once again, a brilliant report. My question is around DBS. Is it just uniform staff or is it non-uniform staff? Who do we have? Because obviously it's safeguarding, and sometimes we may have non-uniform staff who go out to, I don't know, old people's homes, schools, whatever. So is it for everyone? Who's it for? If you can just clarify that, and then I've got a follow-up question as well.
Yep, happy to clarify. It's for everybody, but there'll be different levels depending on the job role. So it's across the whole organisation and new recruits as well coming into the service.
Just out of interest, if anyone says no, what happens? Or can we force them to have one? How does that work?
Shaheen?
Anything to add, Shaheen?
I think we can't force people to have DBS checks, but I will just clarify that. I think our position is if somebody does decline, that would make us deeply worried. And there are ways that we can perhaps look around some softer intelligence with our partner agencies on the safeguarding front. So we would be worried if somebody said no. I'm not sure we've had anybody decline, and certainly in our new contracts, we make it, we are upfront before anyone joins us that you will be DBS checked and these will be renewed. So that's how we'd go about it. Thankfully, I don't think we've had that problem to face.
No, thank you very much. It was just that, in another setting, I've got a situation where someone has declined, and it's like you, it's like, why? And it's like he's saying, well, actually, I've had one from another organization because of the work that he does, but I just refuse to have one now because, for whatever reason, it's interesting to see the fact that we can't force someone to do it.
Thank you, Councillor Jamil. Any other questions for Tamsin? Okay, well, we are being asked here to note the contents of this report and comment as appropriate, which we have duly done. Note the CRMP performance measures updated Appendix 1 and make comment as appropriate, which again we have duly done. And we are asked to agree the recommendation to remove offsetting of carbon footprint from the CRMP performance appendix. Which I would note is not in any way a reduction in the services sustainability commitments, but simply indicative of a more holistic approach to sustainability under the new strategy. Do we have any objections to that, or can we consider that final item agreed as well? I see no objections, so we will consider that agreed and carried. Thank you very much indeed. Moving on to agenda item number 13, which is the National Fire Chiefs Council Safeguarding Self-Assessment Update, June 2026. Can I ask Wayne Swales, Area Commander for Assurance and Organisational Learning, to introduce this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. So I'm going to take you through a relatively brief overview of our current self-assessment update from using the NFCC toolkit. To provide you with assurance or reassurance through our assurance of this activity across the service, and some headline really good practice of where we've been over the past period of 4 years working towards it. So some background to that. As an organisation, clearly, I'm sure we'd all agree safeguarding is essential for assuring the safety, protection and well-being of individuals, not only our own people, but also the communities that we are looking after within Cambridgeshire. And to do that, we utilise a successful collaboration with Essex County Fire and Rescue Service through Donna Bentley, who I'd like to say thank you to for compiling some of the content in this report, which I'm presenting today. Through that, what we utilise the NFCC safeguarding self-assessment, and that does provide us with assurance of the activities we're undertaking through our crews, as well as those other activities. Thank you, Councillor Jamil, for highlighting DBS as well. So a little bit of a segue to this one. What I'll start with saying is the audit results show we've made really good marked progress over that period of time in the last 4 years. The benchmark throughout is there are 9 key areas, 9 separate categories, and I won't take you through those from this. They are in the report that was included. To detail where we have to gap analyze our own performance and where we look to see any gaps with our delivery against that. Again, we've made marked progress over that period of time. Back in 2022, when we first started, we were on a journey, I think it's safe to say, and now out of the 62 areas, we're complete in 61 of those, and one of those, which we're currently sitting at amber on, we are on target and on track to complete in Q2 of 2026, and that sits within our CRMP, as you would expect. So again, like I'd say, it shows that we are taking it with absolute importance that it does, and we're delivering that through our people. Training and supervision is where we, again, as always, will focus. We're providing that through our crews, through our people, and also our non-operational colleagues as well through that process. The framework does provide us, again, with a very, very clear area to focus alongside that with the fire standard as well. So the fire standards gives us a benchmark to achieve. Again, throughout the period of this year, we continue to train and work. One area where we are focusing our efforts as well is the reassurance, or the assurance of that, which is through the Community Safety Evaluation and Quality Assurance Manager role, which will look to raise the standard of the reporting of safeguard concerns through the quality of the data we use. And a high level example of where we need to focus that elevation of importance is in last year, we've had a 21% increase in that financial year on referrals that have made externally, and 3.72% of those of an increase in those reaching a threshold for action. So, and as I'm sure you'd agree, as a growing county and as an organisation, we need to be able to provide the best service to our communities and our people for that. So again, that role will also continue to ensure that we are delivering it to the best focus that we can. Again, that's captured within our CRMP program as we move forwards. In summary, again, what I'd like to say is we've shown a really clear commitment to safeguarding over the past 4 years, which again, my ask today is to note that. We do now have very robust and clear policies and procedures in place which support that for safeguarding, whistleblowing, and it's all aligned with current legislation and best practice, as well as being well structured. And on top of that, we've had a peer review undertaken of our self-assessment audit in 2025, which endorses those practices that we've already got established. What I come with today is a really good position, and that reassurance of assurance that as an organisation we're targeting our safeguarding activities in the right ways, as well as continue to improve it. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Wayne. Members, do you have any questions for Wayne? Any other comments or items for debate? Well, thank you very much indeed. Here we are simply being asked to note, as Wayne has mentioned, that the CFRS NFCC safeguarding self-assessment and audit in Appendix A, including any recommendations, we'll be asked to note that the audit results show marked progress in one of the 2 outstanding sections. 61 out of a total of 62 sections are now compliant. Also, that CFRS has shown ongoing commitment to safeguarding, compliance, and good practice through use of the NFCC toolkit and reflective practice, and that safeguarding is recognised as an organisational responsibility with active support from senior leadership, and those things are all duly noted. Thank you very much indeed, Wayne. Much appreciated. We will move on to agenda item number 14 now, which is the College of Fire and Rescue Consultation Report, which again will be introduced by Wayne Swale. So over to you, Wayne.
Thank you again, Chair, members. I'll go again. So on this report, what I'd like to do, again, this is a very brief update for members on some work that's ongoing within the sector towards a consultation for the College of Fire and Rescue. As members will be aware, following the tragic Grenfell Tower fire in June 2017, the Prime Minister announced a public inquiry to investigate the causes of the disaster and establish some facts around that, which was set into two specific phases. Phase one, and again, we as an organisation and as an authority, we will have been updated, you've all been updated prior on the work that the service has done in working towards those Grenfell Tower recommendations. Phase two, specifically worked towards what was detailed as 58 recommendations within that, which was including the creation of an independent National College of Fire and Rescue, and recommending establishing a national body which is responsible for key areas around professional development, education and training, setting and maintaining national standards, and the research and knowledge sharing across fire and rescue sector. Clearly, a lot of this happens currently in varying different forms as fire and rescue sector. As a natural piece of work, we work together extensively to do this, but actually the consultation seeks to bring that together into one key, if we call it body, entity in a College of Fire. The consultation area of focus is working on it's seeking to, through design, play a central role, and I will quote, central role in strengthening professional standards, leadership, learning and consistency across the fire and rescue sector. Sitting within government's wider programme of reform alongside the work to adapt the fire and rescue service, to ensure the fire and rescue service has the tools and support it needs to adapt to challenging risks and priorities. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it seeks to set out the proposals for the strategic aims of a college to achieve and have the potential functions of leadership and command, recruitment and training, national standards and research and data. Again, we do currently have those. We have the National Operational Guidance Programme, which all fire and rescue services seek to use as guidance. I think it would be fair to say that guidance in itself does create sometimes differences in the way organisations operate. The fire standards seek to ensure that as organisations we work to a standard, and again we work on gap analysis for those as well. But again, the College of Fire and the consultation will look to try and bring that together. Key areas as well are the culture and integrity. Again, we have national programmes which work on this currently. Health and safety and wellbeing and assurance, which is something certainly as an organisation is a huge area of focus for us at the moment. And Tamsin touched on some of our priorities that are sitting in there in there this year currently. It also seeks views on how the college could be delivered in practice. So in theory, absolutely, we could bring that together in a theoretical basis, but how could we do it in practice? Because as with any huge kind of task, we're going to be looking at how physically can it be delivered, whether it be the most appropriate balance between physical and virtual provision, and how it could be making best use of existing training facilities. Each organisation has their own facilities. We've got our own fantastic facility. There is already a fire service college, which is based down in the Moreton in the Mast. So again, how organisations can deliver those options. So whether it should be established, whether that's an arm's length body, or whether it's a body that says you will deliver training in this way. And again, huge organisational context that brings. Funding, I think, is where our questions, and I'm sure all organisations' questions will be, is it going to be on a blended approach? Is it going to be a fully funded? Is it organised? So many questions. I could sit here and probably take up a lot of the time on where those answers are going to come from, and what extent the government powers to direct or intervene in the college operations. And and whether it should be included in the future iteration of the Fire and Rescue Service National Framework, which is out at the moment. So again, I would like to say I've come to provide you with lots of answers to these questions, but the consultation seeks to try and bring those together as a sector, and your views on that would be welcome. We are, as a service, we're going to respond to that consultation, which has been running for 8 weeks, which finishes on the 15th of July. We'll provide clearly our responses to that along with others, and my ask with any views on that, please ensure we share them and we can make sure that they're collated and put back into there as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Wayne. And I think you can be forgiven for not coming with answers, given that consultation is still underway. Do we have any questions for Wayne, members? Councillor Jamil.
I feel for you, because it's because it's a consultation. You're waiting to see what comes back. For me, the question is funding, and the fact that we already do it. So if they do decide to set something up, where will that money come from? Will they take it back from fire authorities? So then we're establishing this, so this much per fire authority will be taken off. So there's a lot of answers that there's more. I think there'll probably be more consultations as the result of this. The theory is good, and I do, but the fact that we already do it, if we weren't already doing it, then I would be worried that someone was telling us that we have to do it. So, like I said, I feel for you, because we already do it. So someone really in Whitehall needs to take stock of the fact that what we do, and then we need to do something extra to make sure that something like Grenfell never happens again. And whether it's you regionalise colleges, or you have one set one, or you have a similar setup to what the police do. But I know that we do everything that they said anyway. So I feel for you in responding to that, because you're going to say, well, actually, if you extrapolate the way you train, you already do most of this stuff anyway. So how saying it, making it national in terms of standards, probably, that's probably where the only difference will be, because maybe you have different standards across different fire authorities. But other than that, I don't really see how far this is going to go.
I think absolutely. I think I echo your comments there. In theory, absolutely. Standardization and approach is where everybody seeks to be. I think the funding clearly is going to be the challenge, and I would sit here as an advocate to say, as an organisation, we provide fantastic training to our people, and as do other fire and rescue services. How that is brought together, there are mechanisms currently, but I think it's fair to say some of those mechanisms, such as national operational guidance, the term guidance already puts you into a grey area with that. And again, I have some views on it. I think we'll look to put all those back through the consultations across the country and see what comes out at the end, I would suggest.
Thank you, Wayne. Matthew, would you like to add to that?
I think Councillor Jamil did a pretty good job of summarising. I think, as an approach, I have no real concerns around standardising certain factors around the country. Why wouldn't we operate in the same way where things make sense to? However, that said, until the funding position is understood, I don't know. I don't think so. I think any response has to be predicated on sort the funding out, and then we can come back with a view in terms of how wide or narrow any College of Fire might look. But until we have that funding position, I would suggest we want to keep our response at a very summarised level.
Thank you, Matthew. I mean, I'd certainly agree. It strikes me that fundamentally there's a huge difference between establishing sort of standards for training and development and the creation of a fire college in the way that it was certainly envisaged by some when it was first proposed. And there are quite a lot of questions still to be answered, but I suppose that's the point of the consultation. Councillor Whelan.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one, really. When the response to the consultation, will members see it before its submission?
Yeah, happy to bring it back to members. Again, the timeframes are very tight, as you'll appreciate, so we'll circulate that prior to it going back.
Yes, I think it should be noted that the consultation closes on the 15th of July, so there won't be a formal meeting that can be brought to, but thank you for that commitment, Wayne, appreciated. Matthew.
Just worth highlighting on that point as well, a standard consultation should run for 12 weeks. This is only running for 8. Okay, just to put it into context, government are trying to push this through quickly. So again, just to give you, so we're bringing it to you, but with a view for, yes, we'll share it. It might be last minute, but we'll share it. Okay.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Super. Well, thank you very much once again, Wayne, much appreciated. Here we are simply asked to review and provide comment on the contents of the report and the consultation, which we have done, and I'm sure we'll continue to do directly as well. So thank you, officers, for your hard work on this. We are also at this point asked to note that we have the minutes of the Policy and Resources Committee held on the 18th of April 2026. Do we have any comments or questions on those minutes? They are therefore duly noted. And we move now on to agenda item number 15, which is the proposed exclusion of the press and public for the subsequent item, where we look to resolve that the press and public be excluded from the meeting on the grounds that the agenda contains exempt information under paragraphs 1 and 3 of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972 as amended, and that it would not be in the public interest for this information to be disclosed information relating to any individual and information relating to the financial or business affairs of any particular person, including the authority holding that information. Are we happy to so resolve? I see broad consensus for that, so we will consider that resolution passed and pause briefly so that we can make the necessary technical arrangements.